The Arctic, a region of breathtaking beauty and ecological significance, is facing an unprecedented crisis. Its ice cap is melting at an alarming rate. This frozen world, once a symbol of permanence, is now rapidly transforming due to the effects of climate change. The consequences of this melting are far-reaching, impacting not only the Arctic ecosystem but also the entire planet. The Arctic ice cap acts as a giant mirror reflecting sunlight back into space and helping to regulate global temperatures. However, as the ice melts, less sunlight is reflected, leading to a dangerous warming cycle. This phenomenon, known as the albedo effect, is further accelerating the melting process, creating a feedback loop with potentially catastrophic consequences. The Arctic is warming twice as fast as the rest of the planet, and the effects are already being felt around the world. From rising sea levels to extreme weather events, the melting of the Arctic ice cap is a stark reminder of the urgent need for climate action. The time to act is now, before the damage becomes irreversible. The Arctic is not just a remote and desolate region, it is an integral part of our planet's climate system. The fate of the Arctic is inextricably linked to our own, and we must act now to protect it for future generations. One of the most immediate and concerning consequences of Arctic ice melt is the rising sea levels that threaten our coastlines. As the ice sheets and glaciers melt at an accelerated pace, they release vast amounts of water into the oceans, causing global sea levels to rise. This process is not only rapid but also relentless, contributing to a continuous increase in sea levels. This poses a significant threat to coastal communities worldwide, many of which are densely populated and home to critical infrastructure. From homes and businesses to roads and bridges, the very foundation of these communities is at risk. The Greenland ice sheet, one of the largest contributors to sea level rise, is melting at an unprecedented rate. This massive ice sheet holds enough water to drastically alter global coastlines. Scientists estimate that if the entire Greenland ice sheet were to melt, global sea levels could rise by as much as 20 feet. Such a rise would have catastrophic consequences for coastal cities around the world. This would inundate coastal areas, displacing millions of people and causing trillions of dollars in damage. The economic impact would be felt globally, affecting industries, economies, and livelihoods. Even a small rise in sea level can have devastating effects. Coastal erosion, increased flooding, and the loss of land are just the beginning. Coastal erosion, flooding, and saltwater intrusion into freshwater sources are just some of the problems associated with rising seas. These issues can lead to the loss of habitats, reduced agricultural productivity, and compromised drinking water supplies. Low-lying island nations in particular are highly vulnerable to the impacts of sea level rise, with some facing the very real possibility of disappearing beneath the waves altogether. These communities are on the front lines of climate change. The rising seas serve as a stark warning sign of the consequences of our actions. They remind us of the urgent need to address climate change. We must take immediate steps to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and mitigate the effects of climate change before it's too late. Investing in renewable energy, improving energy efficiency, and protecting natural carbon sinks are crucial steps. The future of our coastlines and the millions of people who call them home depends on it. Our actions today will determine the fate of these vital areas and the well-being of future generations. The melting of the Arctic ice cap is having a profound impact on the region's iconic wildlife, altering their habitats and threatening their very existence. This rapid environmental change is threatening the survival of many species that depend on the ice for their survival, pushing them to the brink of extinction. Polar bears, for example, rely on sea ice as a platform for hunting seals, their primary food source. Without this crucial hunting ground, their ability to find food is severely compromised. As the ice melts earlier in the spring and freezes later in the fall, polar bears are forced to spend longer periods on land, where they struggle to find food and are more likely to come into conflict with humans. This increased interaction with human settlements often leads to dangerous encounters. Walruses, too, are feeling the effects of the shrinking ice. These massive marine mammals depend on sea ice for essential activities. Walruses use sea ice as a resting platform and a place to give birth and raise their young. The loss of this habitat is particularly devastating for mothers and calves. With less ice available, walruses are increasingly forced to haul out on land in large numbers, making them more susceptible to stampedes and disease outbreaks. These crowded conditions can lead to high mortality rates. the loss of sea ice is also disrupting the entire Arctic food web. This intricate network of life is finely balanced and highly sensitive to changes in the environment. As the ice melts, it affects the abundance and distribution of algae and phytoplankton, which form the base of the marine food chain. These tiny organisms are crucial for the survival of many larger species. This, in turn, impacts fish populations, seals, whales, and other marine animals that rely on these smaller creatures for sustenance. The cascading effects of this disruption can be felt throughout the ecosystem. The Arctic is home to a unique and fragile ecosystem that is being pushed to the brink by climate change. The delicate balance of this environment is at risk. We have a responsibility to protect these animals and their habitat, not just for their sake, but for our own. Conservation efforts are crucial in mitigating the impact of climate change on this vulnerable region. The loss of biodiversity in the Arctic would have ripple effects throughout the planet, impacting everything from ocean currents to global weather patterns. The health of the Arctic is intrinsically linked to the health of the entire Earth. The Arctic plays a crucial role in regulating global weather patterns, and the melting of the Arctic ice cap is having a significant impact on weather systems around the world. The Arctic ice acts as a giant reflector, bouncing sunlight back into space and keeping the region cool. However, as the ice melts, this reflective shield diminishes, leading to further warming. As the ice melts, it disrupts the jet stream, a band of strong winds that circles the northern hemisphere and influences weather patterns across North America, Europe, and Asia. The jet stream's path becomes more erratic, leading to unusual weather patterns that can be unpredictable and severe. The jet stream is driven by the temperature difference between the cold Arctic air and the warmer air to the south. This temperature gradient is crucial for maintaining the jet stream's strength and stability. As the Arctic warms, this temperature difference decreases, causing the jet stream to weaken and meander. A weaker jet stream can lead to prolonged periods of extreme weather, as it struggles to maintain its usual flow. This can lead to more extreme weather events, such as prolonged heat waves, droughts, floods, and intense winter storms. These events are becoming more frequent and severe, affecting millions of people and causing significant economic damage. The loss of Arctic ice also affects the amount of heat reflected back into space, which can further exacerbate warming trends. This reduction in reflectivity, known as albedo, means that more solar energy is absorbed by the Earth's surface. As the ice melts, it exposes darker ocean water, which absorbs more heat from the sun. This absorption accelerates the warming process, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. This creates a positive feedback loop, where warming leads to more melting, which leads to more warming, and so on. This cycle is a major driver of the rapid changes we are witnessing in the Arctic and beyond. The changing weather patterns are a clear indication that climate change is not a distant threat, but a present reality. The evidence is all around us, from the melting ice caps to the increasing frequency of extreme weather events. The impacts are being felt around the world, from more frequent and intense heat waves to more destructive storms. These changes are affecting ecosystems, economies, and communities on a global scale. We must act now to address the root causes of climate change and mitigate its effects before it's too late. This includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transitioning to renewable energy sources, and implementing sustainable practices worldwide. Beneath the surface of the Arctic, there lies a ticking time bomb known as permafrost. This frozen ground has remained intact for thousands of years, but as global temperatures rise, it begins to thaw. When permafrost melts, it releases vast amounts of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere. These emissions can significantly accelerate climate change, creating a dangerous feedback loop. Scientists are particularly concerned about the rapid thawing of permafrost in regions like Siberia and Alaska. The consequences of this thawing are not just limited to increased greenhouse gas emissions. As the ground softens, it can lead to the collapse of infrastructure, including roads, buildings, and pipelines. Moreover, the release of ancient pathogens trapped in the ice could pose new health risks to humans and wildlife alike. In essence, the permafrost time bomb is a pressing issue that demands our immediate attention and action. If we don't address it, the impacts could be catastrophic for both the environment and human societies. As the Arctic ice continues to melt, the implications are felt far beyond the polar regions. Rising sea levels threaten coastal communities while changing weather patterns disrupt agriculture and water supplies. The loss of ice also accelerates global warming, creating a feedback loop that intensifies the crisis. This is not just an environmental issue, it's a global crisis that demands our immediate attention. We are at a critical juncture. The decisions we make today will determine the fate of our planet for generations to come. Urgent action is required to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, transition to renewable energy sources, and protect vulnerable ecosystems. Every moment of delay only exacerbates the problem. It's time to act, and act decisively. Addressing this crisis is a collective responsibility. Governments, businesses, and individuals all have a role to play. Policies must be enacted to limit emissions and promote sustainability. Companies need to adopt greener practices and invest in clean technologies, and well, each of us can make a difference through our daily choices, whether it's reducing waste, conserving energy, or supporting environmental initiatives. Securing a future for the Arctic is not just about preserving a unique and beautiful part of our planet. It's about ensuring a stable climate, protecting biodiversity, and safeguarding the livelihoods of millions of people. By taking bold and immediate action, we can turn the tide and create a sustainable future for all. The time to act is now. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more environmental videos. In the video description is a link to shop sustainably.